Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. The core of Calvinist theological premises is often built on Romans 9, where Paul teaches that God has chosen some to show his mercy and others to show his dishonor. For instance, Paul explains that God loved Jacob and hated Esau even before they were born, before they had done anything good or evil. Romans chapter 9 verse 11 to verse 13. He also speaks of God raising up Pharaoh to demonstrate his power by hardening Pharaoh's heart. Romans chapter 9 verse 17. Paul further addresses those who question God's justice, particularly regarding humanity's inability to resist his will, Romans chapter 9 verse 19 to verse 24, by asking how the clay can question the potter, saying, "Why have you made me this way?" From reading Romans chapter 9, it is clear that Paul is teaching that people cannot base their calling on their own merit, works, choices, or even their ancestral heritage. God calls according to his own mercy and will. The key question, however, is whether the calling spoke of in Romans chapter 9 refers to eternal salvation or to a covenantal purpose on earth. The context of Romans chapter 9 shows Paul arguing against Jews who believed they had a special claim to God's calling because they had received the law, lived by it, and were not Gentiles who were without the law. Paul demonstrates that their inclusion in God's covenant was based on God's choice alone. Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, was chosen before he was born to fulfill God's covenantal purpose, not because of anything he had done to deserve it. No one chooses the heritage, nation, or circumstances in which they are born. Most of humanity is not born as Jews and is therefore born without the law and covenant of Moses. Yet God also chose that Gentiles would receive mercy and share in inheritance promised to Jacob. This choice, again, was not based on anything they had done, but on God's mercy. When interpreting Romans chapter 9 in harmony with passages such as 1 John chapter 2 verse 2, which states that Jesus died not only for us but for the whole world, as well as 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 3 to verse 6 and 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 9, which affirm that God desires all people to be saved and does not want any to perish, we must conclude that Romans chapter 9 is not addressing eternal salvation. Rather, it is concerning with the outworking of God's covenantal calling, whether for the descendants of Israel or for the Gentiles. Like and subscribe for more 2-minute biblical rebuttals.